we have, last couple of weeks, we talked about misunderstood emotions and how emotions can work and play. And as I said, now we're going to be looking at self-esteem. And both these are part of those little gears that we saw in that emotion factory. And these are just little pieces of this whole building that we're going to put together on this subject. Okay? And you're going to get behind me now. That scares me. All right? Oh, right here. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I thought that was somebody's lunch. All right. Well, that's the bread. Okay, we're going to be looking at self-esteem here in a moment. But one of the things that I want to, a lot of times I print notebooks that's got a lot of visuals and study notes in them when we do a session like this, but that runs into a tremendous amount of what I ain't got, okay? And so anyway, the teaching that we do is made possible by our ministry, Faith Evangelistic Ministries, and we're looking at how to love them. I was getting me a haircut today up there in Coleman, and Miss Debbie was cutting my hair, and I told her, I said, yeah, we're doing a study on how to love them. I said, you got any thems? Yeah, I do. And so I'm sure that everybody does. But one of the things that our course goal is to learn how to truly love all others in accordance with the scriptural command given in God's Word, the Bible, by Jesus Himself. Now, the words of Jesus are recorded in John 13:30 and other places, but John 13:34 and 35. These are the ones that we've chosen to use as theme verses here for this reason. There's a triplicate there. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. As I have loved you, that ye also what? Love one another. By this shall all men know that you're my disciples, if you have love one to another. So you get it 3 times there. Our session goal, before I do session goal, right here, if you remember this right here, it'll really, really, really make a difference. Okay? If you just remember this one. Now, an event, what do we call that? It's like yeast in bread. It's a activator. All right, that's your activator. The whatever happens or is said or whatever, that's your activator. And the event produces what? The emotion. That's your consequence or your result. Okay, now, but everything in that hinges on something else. And that's what's in the middle right there. And that's in the middle is your belief. Because what you believe to be true, what you believe to be so, makes a great difference in what happens in that one right there. Now, this session is to come to a proper self-evaluation of our personhood and self-worth, and to understand how this affects our evaluation and treatment of others. Okay? So that's what we're going to be looking at in tonight and in the next session. These are just too big to get through in the time slot, an hour or so. Our objectives in this one tonight are going to be this. What is self-esteem? We're going to try to tell you what it is. And a lot of people really, they got a kind of not a wrong opinion, but not a complete opinion on what self-esteem is, okay? And then we'll be talking about problems with low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. Now, next week, the sessions will be consider measures for correcting self-esteem problems and other corrective measures that we can take. Now, the Bible is full of instances where people are much less than honest in their self-evaluations. Not all in the negative sense, and whichever way you want to say or use negative. But test case. Let me give you a test case. How about in Numbers 13? In Numbers chapter 13, the spies, remember, had gone over into the land, and they had gone through the land, looked it all over. They had one person from each of the 12 tribes. So 12 of them went over. They looked the whole thing over, and they came back and gave their report. And we all know what happened in the report. There were 10 of them, and you find this in verse 33. Now there were 10 of them, they said, and there we saw the giants. Giants. Hang on to that word. There we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. Giants versus grasshoppers. Okay? Now, they under-evaluated their own selves. They under-evaluated what God could do through them. And that's a very dangerous thing to do. So that's a good under-evaluation. And then we get over to Genesis chapter 4, verse 24, the arrogance of Lamech. You remember God said that he put a mark upon Cain, that if any man would slay him, that they would be avenged sevenfold. Well, Lamech says here in verse 24, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 70 and sevenfold. You see what an arrogance he had? Now that is a very improper, it's a high self-esteem, but it's not the kind of high self-esteem you want. Okay? Now, Esther, I love this one. This one I absolutely and positively love. Oh, Haman. Haman, man, I tell you, when Haman had set about a conspiracy to exterminate the Jewish people, he was going to wipe them out. I mean, he had desires above what Hitler had. He was going to wipe out the entire Jewish generation. Now, Mordecai was an old Jewish fella, and he refused to bow down to Haman. Haman would come through, all the people would bow down to him. Oh, Mordecai just be there. Wouldn't bow down to him. Okay? Now, Mordecai happened to do a really good deed. This is a God thing. And Mordecai done a good deed. He found out about a conspiracy to assassinate the king, and he got the word to him, and everything was taken care of, and the king was saved and so forth, but he was never rewarded or acknowledged for that. Now, later the king discovers, as he's reading some of the old chronicles, he discovers that Mordecai had done this thing. And so the king said, what honor was given? What was done to honor him? And they said, well, nothing. And he says, look, man, I want to honor him. Now, I'm going to think of how I want to honor him. Well, they were having a feast, and Mordecai, or not Mordecai, but Haman got invited. And Haman's coming into the feast, and he comes in, and the king says, what would be a good thing? Well, let me read it here in verse 6. Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? There's someone I want to really, really honor. What should be done to that person? Now, Haman thought in his heart. Haman thought in his heart. That's what he believed. To whom would the king delight more to honor than me? I'm the man. Huh? You know, there's a lot of folks like that. They think they're the only person on the face of this earth. And if there are other people, they're God's gift to them. Okay? Met a lot of them. and tried to unmeet a lot of them. Okay, so actually the king wanted to honor Mordecai for what he had done. Now, who did Haman hate? Mordecai. Haman hated Mordecai. And so they come through with everything they're going to do to honor Mordecai. They're going to take the king's horse, and they're going to take the robe, and they're going to put it on him and have one of the princes of the land to lead him through and to be announcing, this great man. Well, who better to do that job than Haman? I love it. There's something that on our fleshly side, there's something that gives us real satisfaction to see the bad guy get it. Amen. Y'all like that? There was an old program. They've got a newer version of it back on, but they tell me it's not very good. But there was an old program. It was about an Avenger. You remember that? When when somebody do something about it and they couldn't do anything about it, he'd take care of it. I mean, he'd really put it on them. And that's not a good Christian idea, not a good Christian way to think. But somehow or another, it just makes you feel good when Haman gets hung up in this thing, doesn't it? Well, Haman, after all that shame, he went home and he had built a gallows. I'm talking about they were going to hang old Mordecai on this big, tall gallows. And so what they decided to do instead, Mordecai was hung on that gallows. A self-esteem such as Haman had is dangerous. It's dangerous. But so many people go through this life. I did some stuff in order to make a living while I had to go preach and so forth and so on, and I'd work at the mines a while, and then I was trying to do some stuff on the side to make a little bit of money, and I got involved in some marketing, and boy, I tell you, how many people I met that just said, you got to fake it till you... That was taught, that was driven. Fake it till you make it. Now, I had a friend back in the 70s that hauled coal for me from the mine we operated, and if you talked to him, you'd think he had a big Mack truckload of money coming just any minute. And he couldn't hardly have two nickels to rub together. All right? A lot of folks like that. Another friend, bless his heart, he's gone now, but air conditioners were just coming out in cars. This was a new thing. I can remember when a heater was optional up north. Okay? You want a radio, you want a heater, that was optional equipment in a car. But air conditioning was coming out in some automobiles, and a few of the well-off people had it. And I had a friend that didn't have it, but he had an old car, and it was still in that era, and he had this car, and on Saturday everybody went to this town where I live. Now, there was a one-way street up 2nd Avenue, and there was a one-way street back down 3rd Avenue, and then you could go back up 2nd or you could go home. Okay? And this old boy, he would drive around with all the windows up. Now, everybody was on 2nd Avenue. 3rd Avenue was beer joints and places where nobody didn't want to be anyhow. So folks would be all standing on the streets visiting one another, just having a real wonderful time. And he'd roll all the windows up, and he'd drive real slow up 2nd Avenue, hot weather. Now, him with the windows up, you know what he wanted everybody to think? He had AC in his car. He'd turn the corner up on the other end of town. He's about 3 blocks up there. He'd turn the corner, and he'd have a towel. He'd roll windows down and start wiping sweat. You don't get all... And by the time he got back down there to go up 2nd Avenue again, he'd have the windows up. I mean, hey, listen, folks. It takes all kinds to make the world, and we've got them. We have got them. Thank God for that. Okay. Now, so self-esteem. See, what happens, I think it's easy to see how a person can evaluate themselves too high and be incorrect. Or they can evaluate themselves too low and be just as wrong. I've seen a whole lot of people that they don't want to exude a high self-esteem, and they get so humble that they're proud of it. Y'all have to think about that for a minute. Y'all old. It takes a while to process. But they're so humble, they're proud of it. Okay? And now tell me, what do we need to do? What kind of self-esteem do we need to do? We need to have an honest and proper self-esteem. We need to have an honest and proper evaluation of ourselves. Now, proper, see, you may be honest due to what you believe about yourself. If you believe, you remember that belief thing? If you believe yourself to be the greatest thing ever hit earth, but that's not proper. Okay? So we need an honest and proper evaluation of ourselves. Now I want to share a quote with you that I picked up. I pick up all kinds of things, and then when I jot them down or something, I like to give credit to whom that I can remember. But so many things I pick up and going along the way, and I don't know. I don't remember where I got it. Don't remember if somebody said it in a message or what. But here's one that I heard that I think is real good. When we are most arrogant is usually when we're most mistaken. When we are most arrogant is usually when we are most mistaken. Now, the Bible speaks extensively on the subject of pride, haughty, proud. Pride goeth before destruction. And now the first thing so that we need to look at then is self-esteem. Self-esteem, what is it? Huh? To love yourself? Y'all line up right here. No, come on. Self-esteem, what is self-esteem? Your opinion of yourself, okay. Any others want to throw something in there? Let me give you some dictionary. Worst place. Look, if you have a place where you study, where you do your Bible devotions and study. When you study the Bible, the worst thing in the world that you can have is a secular dictionary. I promise you. Throw away Webster's dictionary. Get rid of it. And if you want to get you a good Bible concordance or a Bible dictionary or a Bible inside, but listen to this. Dictionary says a good opinion of oneself. Also an overestimate of oneself. Okay? So they're saying it's a good opinion of oneself and also an well, which one is it? They don't say. They don't know. I always like World Book. That's the problem. World. Okay? World Book says that self-esteem is the thinking well of oneself. Thinking well of oneself. Self-respect. The thinking too well of oneself. Conceit. Which one is it? They don't know. Okay? Now, it sounds like that all of these people, which I'm sure they did, they take their cue from Freudian psychology. Okay? Sigmund Freud, one of the worst cats that ever lived, had a tremendous influence, and, not good stuff. Now, I'm sure that the definitions that are in the secular dictionary would be no good if they were used in the days that Apostle Paul was writing. Apostle Paul absolutely did not have anything to do with those dictionary definitions. Amen? You see, I think they're just as inaccurate today. Today, the world just about operates on Freudian psychology. You know what that is? My daddy didn't love me. It was my mommy. She set me over the corner of the kitchen, fed me with a slingshot. She didn't like me at all, you know. And folks, folks, in Freudian psychology, what they try to do is guilt transfer. Guilt transfer. You're not responsible for anything. It's somebody else's fault. Now, you know what that does? You know that ain't true, and that makes you feel worse than you did before you saw the guy. Okay? And by the way, they've got a good business going, because Freudian psychology, you're going to have to keep coming back. Because you're going to get worse. Here, I'm going to go in Kentucky grammar now. You're going to get worser and worser. Okay? Worser and worser. Now, Freudian psychology, or guilt transfer, erroneously leads a person to have a high self-esteem. May not be worth a nickel, but they got a high self-esteem. And in most cases, they'll teach the higher the better. You know, you're number one. And you know, you're you. Nobody, you're the best. Now, Freudian psychology and philosophy is very dangerous and has yet to help anyone that I've ever studied test cases on. Never have seen where that type of psychology helped anybody. But the definitions are quite accurate when they're put in the light of the humanist opinions of the world and the humanist message today of self. Self. You deserve this. That's commercials. I'm so glad what little bit of TV I watch. I thank goodness that when it comes to a commercial, I got that button there that'll go up to 4 feet. Right on by them cats. Every once in a while, Judy be watching something on Hallmark or something live, and commercial come on, and I sit there and I think, okay, commercial's over, and I said, pause that just a minute. What am I supposed to go by? I didn't get the message. I don't understand what they wanted me to get. Okay, and I find that to be almost always so. It's self. But in light of some of the directives given by Apostle Paul, these worldly definitions are really pretty shady. Now, one sense of the word esteem is to rate or judge. To rate. You rate yourself. You judge yourself. If judgment begins here, that's where it should begin. And it's just to rate or to judge. But remember that little gear right there. You got that belief thing going on. So that's not just in the emotions, that's in a whole lot of the other building blocks that we use. Now let's look at the Word of God once again for some verification. Going back to Numbers 13. Going back to Numbers 13 there. Israelites were at a point they could have entered the Promised Land. They were like 2 years out of Egypt. Spies went in, came back. 10 of them said, oh, bad. Joshua and Caleb, you know, of course, they said we'd be well able. You know, God can do this with us. Now, what did the people, the mass of people and the 10, what they believe about themselves? Low. We can't do this. We can, you know, it tires me out. People, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, and so forth. I was not born with the knowledge of doing it. Huh? Hey, look, we all start out even. When it comes to knowledge, we all start out even, don't we? We come out of the womb, and there we are. Now, we got to start learning some stuff. And we learn pretty quick to eat. Yeah. So we learn, but these people, what they believed about themselves was, we can't do that. And the people, all the multitude of the Jewish people, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. Now, you know, in Numbers 14:30, of course, Joshua and Caleb are rewarded for their faithfulness. They got to enter the Promised Land, and everybody else that was over, 20 years of age, I think, had to die off in the wilderness, okay? Now, So we got that. Now we got the problems with low self-esteem. Problems with low self-esteem. Now, every one of us has characteristics, features, traits, etc., etc., that we are less than satisfied with. Think about it for a moment. Do you have any idea how much money is spent a year just in this country alone on people doing body modifications? Huh? Yeah. There's a lot of people get rich on, man, I tell you, I see some of them, and they've had so many facelifts. Some of these older ladies, they've had that they're, and they barely can't open their mouth to talk. It's obvious, and they pay tons of money to get that done. And then some of them, we got everything in the world going on today. Botox and this tox and that nip and tuck and going on, and it's scary. It's scary. Now, here's the thing. God created you and every other baby that's ever been born. God created you the way He wanted you to be. I had a good friend when I was growing up, and he was always torn up about his ears. I mean, he looked like Dumbo almost. He had some whopper. He looked like an A model Ford coming down the road with both doors wide open. Huh? I mean, he had some, boy. He could almost fly with them, and he always worried about his ears. Always worried about his ears. And I said, look, man, there ain't nothing wrong with your ears. Yours may be what we all need. I don't know. Don't know if it helped him hear any better. But I've seen folks, and they're all torn up with. They wanted to do a lot of plastic surgery on me when they took that cancer out of this side of my face, and man, they started cutting on that thing one morning about 9 o'clock and didn't quit till 3:30. And of course, I'd come out and sit. And they'd call my name, and I'd come back through there, and the doctor would say, well, we still got some cancer cells, and here we go again. Right there and sit. Well, there was another fellow, he was getting his ear done. They'd cutting cancer off his ear. They'd take a little bit, and they'd do all the tests on it. They'd come back and take a little more. And I said, I tell you what, partner, some people would lay money which one of us, if I'm going to run out of nose or you're going to run out of ear first. But folks were, and I told them, no, man, just they didn't even have to sew. They cut the whole side of that nostril out. Didn't have one little ring going around the back side. They said it'd grow back, so I had to work on it every day and dressings and so forth, and it grew right back up there. And so that's the reason one side of my face is kind of pulled high and the other side low. Who cares? I'm off the market anyhow. Don't make no difference. Judy has kept me past my prime. She has stuck with me, boy, I tell you. Now, low self-esteem. Here's a problem with this low self-esteem. It comes under two major things. Two major things. And those are intelligence. That look like is that somebody would ask advice of? Or appearance. Now, we ain't supposed to make fun of nobody, but I'm going to give y'all permission. That's my oldest son at my daughter's wedding. And that's me having fun. Me and my two boys used to go all the way down to, Sebring, Lake Istapoga. Oh, we'd have a blast. We get out about 5:30 in the morning looking like that and go in that bait shop looking for wild shiners. Hey, we met a lot of people. We met a lot of people, got to talk to a lot of people, and was probably remembered by a lot of people. And they had something to tell their grandkids, okay? What they had run into over on 27 down there in the Badlands. Now our society, the society that we live in, worships and prescribes which personal characteristics and features are most desired. They determine that, and man, I'm telling you, I've seen some folks in some of the movies on TV, and some of the ladies. I'm telling you what's the truth. They can hide behind a power pole. You know, just nothing but, but that's what's supposed to be. This is the way you're supposed. How many of y'all remember Twiggy? Huh? Man, anorexia. Listen, these people in Ethiopia have more meat on them than she did, and it's sad that people feel that they have to look, and they do things that become serious medical problems in order to do those things. I worked, when I was with a surveying crew, we surveyed through the mountains in Kentucky, and I was with that surveying team, and then one of the boys talking about he's going to lose some weight. And he said a friend told him about a real good diet, and he could guarantee he could lose some weight. All he ate was X-Lax and drank water. I'm serious. He started looking like something out of a midnight thriller movie. I mean, that boy, man, you're going to die if you don't straighten up. You can't do that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of psychologists, and I wrote this many, many years ago, so I'm going to say it now and for a lot of decades past, they agree that there is an epidemic of inferiority. You hear that? An epidemic of inferiority. There is. There is. It's raging through our society, and it's ingrained. It's ingrained because of everybody determining what is the right thing to be. Think about public behavior today. Victim complex. I mean, you know, I was robbing these people and they hurt me. Really? I mean, work ethics. Boy, I'll tell you what, I can remember when people took great pride in their work. My dad had some old trucks. They were 46 and 47 Chevrolets and dump trucks. And he had them on a job at a coal mine preparation plant where they washed and processed the coal, and all the impurities and rock and bone and slate came out of the coal, and so these old trucks hauled it under the tip full of mud, just old muddy cold water about so deep, and mud and slush, and hauled it up a holler and dumped it. And every once in a while they'd have flat on one of those. And when they had a flat, Dad would take it off, or one of the guys would take it off and put another one on, and they'd bring that old muddy contraption up to the shop. And my job at about 13, 14 years old was clean the wheel. After Dad got it fixed, put a tire on it, clean the wheel. I had to clean that wheel sparkling. And then I had to paint that wheel. And that wheel had to be painted with silver paint. And then that ring that holds it all together, those things are the keys, had to be painted red. And I couldn't get no red on the silver, and I couldn't get no silver on the red. And that was very tedious work. And I got that wheel painted, I got a quarter. And then I would see that, because I went down every morning before I went to school. I'd go down every morning. Wasn't old enough to drive, but I'd drive down every morning, take care of the trucks, check the oil, put the oil down, put the gas in, and all that good stuff. Have them running, so when the men come to work, everything's ready to go. And then I come back home and get ready and have to walk to school. But those old trucks, I'd see that wheel, and when it made one turn through under that processing plant, gone. And when Dad would inspect those wheels and make sure that everything about them was exactly the way it ought to be, paint-wise, I got my quarter. And I thought so many times, old man losing it. Old man's losing it, sure as the world, you know. But you know what he was teaching me? He was teaching me he'd tell me so many times, if it's worth doing right. I'm glad he did that. I'm glad he did that. And so many times I do that. Other jobs, we have to grease them old trucks. They bring them in to grease them. They had a big old Alamite 5-gallon grease bucket. Had a handle on it. They didn't have none of that. A knife. Big. And I weighed about 90 pounds wringing wet. And here I was up on that thing, trying to push it down. You know, that mud and stuff in them old grease fittings. I tell you, folks, but had to be done. And it had to be done right, okay? And that's so important. So when you're thinking about self-esteem, keep in mind that things doing right and folks. Now here's the deal. Here's the deal, and a product of Freudian philosophy. Few, if any, do very well, but everybody gets a trophy. I mean, that's crazy. Where's the incentive? That's socialism. But that's crazy. That's crazy. Everybody gets a trophy. I remember the only trophy I ever got was for basketball. Hey, what Bob? Up in Newfoundland, we had a tournament, basketball tournament, and we had to stay behind 1 week from coming back to the States while we were up on deployment. We were up in Argentia, Newfoundland, and it was a tournament there, North Atlantic, and a championship game. We beat the Marines. Hey, Semper Fi, bro. But I got a trophy. It's out in the junk shed somewhere if it's still even around. I don't know. It may be down here in this big pile down here at the waste product deal. All right. There's no incentive to do well. One leading psychologist put it like this. One leading psychologist said that most of us are like a railroad coach in the middle of a train. Don't know where it has been nor where it's going. It just goes along with the rest of the train. Go with the flow. Harder to swim upstream than it is to float down. I used to go fishing. I'd wade the river, get a chance to go fish a little bit of the evening after work in the summertime or something, and get off from work. And I'd drive up right up there where the Hatfield McCoys was knocking each other off. I get in the river. Now I would drive up there, and then I would get in the river and I'd fish as I went downstream. I mean, take an idiot to get in there and fish going upstream, right? And when I get down to one of the old, there used to be an old coal camp there, and my grandpas and uncles, a few of them lived there, and I'd say, take me back up to my truck, okay, and get me a ride back up. But many people are like a railroad coach in the middle of a train. Think about that for a moment. Doesn't know where it's been, don't know where it's going, just goes along with the train. So many people in life. Gosh, ain't y'all ever been in a big major city where, I mean, there's just people like ants, and I think, yeah, New York, Boston, Chicago. Okay, you go. Yeah, not quite, but pretty close. But when you think about it, that's just a tragic thing. Now, the person who's like that, has no sense of destiny. Destiny. Don't know where they're going. They're like that railroad car. They have no sense of destiny, no idea of purpose. How many people are living their lives, and if you ask them, what's your purpose? What is your purpose for even being on earth? Yeah, just make up one of the gang. I don't know. No sense of excitement about life. You know what? Life should be exciting. Oh, it's just so dull. Get up and do something. Now, I look back on my life and I think about, I've always liked to be a builder. I'm not talking about just building houses or whatever, but I like to start at zero and build a business. And I've done that a number of times. Mining, we started at ground zero, buddy. I mean, we didn't have nothing. We didn't have nothing. When me and Judy got married, we didn't have nothing, and we still got most of it. But we didn't have nothing, and we borrowed, and I had some friends who were big time in the coal business, and they loaned some money. Anyway, we got some equipment, and we got on the side of the hill right there, and there's the coal, about so high, and so we start right there, and we turned that into a very prosperous mining operation. When it gets to the day business, and then after I got my taxes filled out one year, I said, sayonara, y'all can have this thing, okay? And then bought a marina, had a boat dock on the lake, had a houseboat, a ski boat, a bass boat, and life's going to be grand. Well, it was for everybody that we serviced, but I worked there 24/7. While they was all going fishing, I was there working, okay? And different businesses, but I've always loved to just take something and build it up, and it's really good. Now, low self-esteem breeds depression. Is that correct? I'll check with my counselor back there to make sure I got that right. But low self-esteem breeds depression. Folks, listen, there are more people suffering from depression in this country right now. They're constantly at the doctor, constantly in the hospital, and they don't know what's wrong with them. It's depression. Robs us of vitality and confidence. Listen, here's what I love right here. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Now that's a reference to spiritual things mainly, but other things too. Because some things we've done, like after Hurricane Gilbert, we took a team and went to Jamaica. And I didn't see anything at all spiritual about being out there putting roofs back on houses, putting roofs back on church houses, banging and knocking and working out in that hot sun. And I couldn't see much spiritual about that, but it was an exciting thing to do. And the people that appreciated it so deeply, they didn't know what to do because they didn't have anything to give you. Okay, but what a joy that is. So it's not just a spiritual thing, but it robs you of all of your life, really. It breeds contempt. It breeds contempt. How many different times have we seen riots and cities burned for one reason or another, or whatever? And you know what? That goes up way back. That's not nothing new. That goes way back. Back during the Depression, after the Depression, through the time right after World War II, the New Deal. The New Deal was this. Inflation is way up here, and unemployment's way up here with it. Okay? And folks, it just breeds contempt. It affects our interpersonal relationships in a lot of ways. A lot of people just think that they're nothing, and they want to bring everybody else down to their level or below. By the way, our real level versus our facade is something we want to look at. One of the greatest dangers of low self-esteem, get my tongue on my eye tooth, can't see what I'm saying. One of the greatest dangers of low self-esteem, it causes us to create a phony facade. A facade. A facade is the front or principal face of a building. Call that a facade. Well, figuratively, what we present ourselves to be that we ain't is a facade. Okay? And when a false front is produced and displayed, we're made to feel like a hypocrite. Wonder why? Because we are. Okay? We're made to feel like a hypocrite because we are one. But from childhood, now listen, from childhood, we have learned to build a facade in order to conceal our own self-perceived weaknesses. We do that from a little bitty stuff. You know, I've seen some pictures. I think it's real cool. You know, a little kid standing in front of a mirror and seeing somebody, you know, like the Hulk. All right. Then, over a span of time, we begin to accept our facade. We begin to really believe it. We start to really believe it. And we get upset when others don't see us as we see ourselves. And we prefer them to see us that way too. You exert most of your energies to hide your weaknesses and display your strengths. Reaching home, isn't it? When you get to accepting your facade, your false front, as reality, you become super sensitive to criticism. Don't you criticize what I pretend I am, you know. And you rush to plug up every crack in it. You know, you got to keep that thing. Any little trickle of criticism becomes a flood of truth, and you don't want the truth. You want to go on being who you have projected yourself to be. And we come to hate ourselves for what we really are, and we come to hate everyone else because they don't accept us on the basis of our facade. Now, folks, these are things that this could go into some deeper thought and study, but I'm as I told you, when we did emotions and now self-esteem, we're just skipping across the surfaces. Okay? But I hope it gives you an itch that you have to scratch and you get in the book. Others don't react to our true selves. They react to our facade. We get a compliment, and when we do, we accept it real lightly because we know we didn't deserve it. That's tough. Because it don't apply to the real us. It goes to the facade. Well, the phony front, either way you go, it's a no-win. You build a facade, it's a no-win. If folks reject our facade or if they accept our facade, it's a no-win. Either way, we lose. Either way, we lose. It's important to have a right and an honest evaluation of self. In order to have a realistic self-image, we would have to be open and honest to feedback to our true selves from those we can trust. Dangerous ground. Dangerous ground. To share your most hidden things that's behind your facade, and to share that with someone else, and that someone else turns out to be a church gossip. Now, there's difference in regular gossip and church gossip. Regular gossip, people just tell stuff. Church gossip, they say, you know, we need to pray for so-and-so. Put it in the form of a prayer request. Okay. I've seen that done so many times. That's no good. Okay. But that's dangerous ground. But I think that is the place that we really, really need to be. Now, remember, next session, next Wednesday night, Lord will, get up here to them. I have to have big print. Next session, we will consider some measures, biblical-based measures that we can use to correct any self-esteem problems we have. Whether we're too low self-esteem, we're too high, whatever, here or there, corrective measures, okay? And we'll be doing that in our next session, Lord willing. Amen? Amen.